Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. And today we have another set of hot, great stories on this topic, so sit comfortably and let's move on to our first story. I already said I don't work for you. Leave me be. So this happened a few hours ago, and I decided to post it here while it's still fresh in my memory. Also, here's the obligatory excuse since English is not my primary language. Kind of important for this one. I live in Rio de Janeiro, and I had to sort some business downtown, and I already was making my way back home when I got approached by what I assumed was an American tourist. I assumed he was American mostly because of his accent and how incredibly loud he was. So here's the cast. E.T., not the alien, just entitled tourist. Me, molasses entity, i.e. myself. E.T., hey, you kid, I need to get back to the hotel. Drive me back there now. Me, noticing he was a tourist, I don't work for any hotels, and it's quite dangerous to ask people on the streets of a foreign country to take you anywhere. There's an information counter in this building where they could help you. No, I know you work for the hotel, and I'll have your head if you don't take me back there this instant. Sorry, I said I don't work for any hotels or for you. Excuse me. So I made my way to the metro station only to find out that the tourist had followed me there, and he was mad. I sprinted to the turnstile, used my pass to get through it, then stopped to watch what happened to the tourist from the other side. He stopped chasing me right after I got through the turnstile and was gesturing obscenities at me. While he was doing so, he left his backpack on the floor. Then, in a godly act of instant karma, somebody stole his backpack. I burst out laughing and got on the train and made my way home without any other incidents. Well, that's a nice story for a little warm-up. But now it's time to continue the epic saga about the C-word Saurus. What a Mess, Act 3. Here it is, the final installment. I'd love to pretend I did this on purpose to build suspense, but in reality, it's been a combination of overworked and lazy. Our story set at a coffee shop in a busy town center. My day of justice started with myself starting my closing supervisor duties. I just started pulling food to thaw when one of my coworkers said she needed me. I walked out from the back of the house to help resolve whatever issue had arisen when I came face to face with C-wordosaurus. It took her a moment, maybe a beat longer than me. She went from angry to surprised, then right back to angry. I was definitely remembered. She turned to my coworker and snarled at my appearance. "Excuse me, I asked for your manager." I stepped from behind the counter and got closer to her. "He's unfortunately not here at the moment. I'm the supervisor right now." She whipped her head in my direction, and I could see the displeasure on her face. Before I could ask her what the problem was, she thrust a cup in my direction. This was on the for sale wall, but she said it's not on sale. I took the cup from her and inspected it. I'd set up the shelves myself, and I definitely hadn't put this on the for sale wall. Yep, she's right, this isn't a sale cup. My answer definitely didn't help. Well, it's on the wall. If it isn't on sale, it shouldn't be there. I desperately wanted to kick her out and go back to my duties. I realized I'd actually have to help her this time, though. I understand. And you're right, but it wasn't supposed to be. People pick up cups and just put them back anywhere. It shouldn't have been on that wall, but it was there, so it should be on sale. It was like talking to an irate brick. She wasn't even smart enough to be a brick wall, just a brick. I excused myself to the back to call my manager and figure out what to do. I held out brief hope that I could be told to tell this crazy lady to leave. My precious naivety. He instructed me to give her 10% off to get her out of the store. I did not want to cater to her entitlement, but that's retail, right? So then I gave it to her, and she left the store happy. Just kidding. I wish that's what happened. So I walked back out, interrupted her hunt for more cups on the for sale wall that shouldn't have been on sale. "Sorry about the confusion," I lied through my teeth. "I can give you 10% off the sale price." And she just scowled. "The sign says 40% off. That's what the sign says." And I smiled. "It says up to, ma'am. It's not a guaranteed amount off." "Fine," she huffed. So we head up to the register, and I started to ring her up. "All right, it's going to be," and I gave her the total. She handed me a single bill and started to wait. I blinked at her. I need 5 more cents. She shrugged unapologetically. I don't have 5 cents. Well, that didn't sound anything like my problem. I need 5 cents. I don't have 5 cents. She then looked at the tip jar and reached in a hand, rummaging before I stopped her. That's a tip jar, not a change bin. We can't accept anything from it. I got a frustrated growl. Just change the percent off. Do the 40. I shook my head. I'm sorry, I can't do that. It was like I was just talking to a weak imitation of her true self. She evolved into her final form before my eyes. You will do it! How dare you treat a customer like this? She raged and paced and knocked over 2 cups. They shattered on the floor, eliciting a pointed, I'm not paying for those. With the ruckus she was causing, I finally had a reason to ask her to leave. I'm sorry, but you're causing a scene and disturbing other customers. I have to ask you to leave. She didn't just refuse, she screamed, I'm not going anywhere without my cup. Suit yourself. I went to the back and called the non-emergency line and explained the situation and waited. One of the biggest advantages of the location of our store was that it was just up the street from the police station. They showed up within 10 minutes. I watched as they went to speak to C-Wordosaurus. I watched as she ranted and raged at them. Then I watched as one of the officers responded as she threw down a bag of coffee beans that exploded at her feet. As one officer sat her down and forced her to stay seated, the other came over to me. You want a trespasser? I couldn't say yes fast enough. C-Wordosaurus was told that she was now banned from the establishment and could not return within the next 3 years. Cue the waterworks, arguing in some sort of gibberish that I couldn't translate through her sobs. She tearfully signed her portion of the paper and gathered her things. The police escorted her out of the store and to her car. I'm curious if I'll find C-Wordosaurus again or if this was our final meeting after all. If I had known I don't have enough money, just lower the price was a viable tactic, I'd have a Lamborghini or something. And our next story. No, mister, I definitely do not work here. This took place some years ago. I was 30, skinny, and pretty in a fairly wholesome sort of way, all of which is relevant to the story. So I'd gone through a difficult breakup with the result that I'd spent a year renting rooms in a couple of different house shares. Finally, the time came when I could have my own place again, and I was really excited. I'd found an attic flat in a large house that had been converted into 4 apartments, and it was absolutely perfect. I shared an entrance with the flat below, but no worries because we each had our own intercom. I briefly met my neighbor, a slightly eccentric middle-aged lady who seemed to value her privacy. It all seemed too good to be true. Over the next few weeks, though, I started to wonder about her. She seemed to have a lot of visitors, some of whom I'd meet on the stairs at all hours of the day. Occasionally, she'd open her door to my visitors as they came up the stairs, which was a bit odd. Still, she was a good neighbor and obsessed with security, so it worked well for me. One sunny day, I was headed down to the local coffee shop, and as I left the building, I saw a bloated, sweaty man standing outside the entrance fiddling with his phone. I smiled politely and went on my way. I was halfway down the drive when I heard Sweaty Man's reedy voice, "Excuse me." I turned around. "Can I help you?" At this point, I should say that I was wearing a long denim skirt and a modest top. It was an outfit one could easily wear to church, and in fact, I'd done so on several occasions. So back to the story. "Do you do home visits?" "What do you mean?" With furtive energy. "Do you do home visits?" Now, despite all the church-going, 30-year-old me was very streetwise, and in an instant, everything fell into place. "I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean." "But you work here." Extremely politely. "Work here? What on earth do you mean? I live in the top flat." Sweaty Man at this point backs up, muttering apologies and fluttering his arms around awkwardly. I said a cheery goodbye and went on my merry way for my almond latte, feeling ickily flattered. And that, my friends, is how I discovered that I lived above a brothel. And one more story. "Sweetheart, we don't work here." So I never thought I'd have a story to post here, but it happened. Just not in the way you might expect. I needed a few things for my house, so I loaded up my kids into the car and headed to the Dollar Tree down the road. Before anyone says anything, Dollar Tree is awesome and super cheap. Great for single dads like myself. Now, my daughter's 3, my son is 1. I was in the aisle with the detergent and Fabuloso and such, keeping an eye on my daughter who was messing with the shelves a few feet away from me. After grabbing what I needed, I headed back to find her organizing the cans of air freshener spray usually kept in the bathroom, grabbing all the loose cans that had the same colors and pictures on them and putting them back into the display box. Honey, what are you doing? I'm fixing this. It needs to be fixed. Okay, but it's time for us to go. We've got to get home before it's time for your sleepover at Granny's house. But Daddy, I have to fix this. They all need to be together. Sweetheart, we don't work here. We need to go. If we're late, you won't be able to go to Granny's house. Okay, you're right. We gotta go, Daddy. Let's go now. We then proceeded to pay, and the lady at the register heard the whole conversation and was laughing while saying, I had such a great little helper. It was a fun time for all. It's not one of the most dramatic posts like I've seen at the top posts of all time, but I thought it was cute and wanted to share. I love this. Your daughter just made my day. And thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.